All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm excited for today's deep dive because we're going to be taking a close look at investment theses.
Investment thesis.
You got it.
No, that's a good one.
Yeah, now we've got this excerpt here that's going to kind of be our guide. And it goes through like what an investment thesis is. And then it's even got like this whole example of a thesis for like a tech startup. So we can really see how it all comes together in practice. It's kind of like, having a roadmap before you set off on a road trip, right?
Okay.
Where you want to go, how you're going to get there, and what to look out for along the way.
I like that analogy a lot, yeah. Because an investment thesis, it's not just about making money.
Right.
It's about making informed decisions.
Yes, absolutely. And about minimizing risk and maximizing your chances of success.
Exactly.
So let's dig into this excerpt, all right? It talks about these key components of an investment thesis. Like you got your investment idea, market opportunity, investment catalysts, financials and valuation, risk analysis, exit strategy, the whole shebang. But I think what's really interesting is to go beyond just listing them out and see how they play out in real-world situations. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Take the dot-com bubble, for example.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So many companies back then, they had great investment ideas. Everyone wanted to use the internet for, well, everything. But the market opportunity, it just wasn't really there yet. Like consumer behavior, it hadn't caught up. I think a solid investment thesis would have spotted that, that disconnect.
Totally. It's like even if you have this revolutionary idea, it needs the right environment to actually flourish.
Yeah. It has to have fertile ground.
Fertile ground.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what about those investment catalysts? I always think of them as like, those unexpected plot twists in a movie that could just totally change the game.
Absolutely. Think about the rise of smartphones. So you have companies like Apple and Samsung. They had the devices, but the real catalyst, that was the App Store. It just like totally transformed the market, created huge opportunities for developers, investors, everybody.
For sure, yeah. It's like it took that initial idea and just like, blasted off into the stratosphere. All right, so we've talked about the ideas, the market, these catalysts. But now, what about the numbers? What about those financials and valuation? Because, I'm no Warren Buffett or anything, but I know those numbers. They're important, right?
Oh, they're absolutely crucial. You could have a fantastic idea in a booming market, but if the company's, overvalued or if they're just drowning in debt, that's a major red flag, right?
Right. You need warning sign.
Yeah, you need to use things like the price to earnings ratio, the PE ratio to see, is this investment actually priced fairly?
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about looking at what the company is right now, but what it has the potential to become, right? Like financially speaking.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, but even with all these pieces in place, even if everything looks great on paper, things can still go south, right? So how does risk analysis fit into a solid investment thesis?
Right. Well, risk is like a part of any investment, but it's not about just like avoiding risk altogether, right? It's about understanding it and being able to manage it. A good investment thesis isn't going to just say, hey, this is risky. It's going to dig deeper. It's going to say, what are the specific risks? Like, are there any regulatory changes coming down the line? Are there new competitors coming out? And most importantly, what strategies can we use to like mitigate those risks?
So you got to have a plan B.
Always.
Just in case things go sideways.
Absolutely.
All right, now let's assume everything goes according to plan. Eventually, we're going to need an exit strategy, right? What is that?
Exactly. So an exit strategy is how you're going to like realize the returns from your investment. Are you aiming for an IPO, which is where the company goes public?
Okay.
Or are you thinking about maybe an acquisition by like a bigger player in the market? A good exit strategy is super important to turn that profit potential into, actual money.
Makes sense. You got to cash in on those wins eventually. Okay, and then lastly, there's the expected return. This is where we get to dream big a little bit. But how do we set realistic expectations without getting, carried away by all the excitement?
Well, a good investment thesis isn't just going to pull a percentage out of thin air, right?
Right.
It's going to provide a clear, data-driven rationale for that expected return. So you're going to be looking at, what are the growth projections for the market? How is this company positioned to capture that market share? The expected return should be based on solid analysis, not just like wishful thinking.
Okay, so our source material also has this great example of a real-world investment thesis, and it's for this AI-powered healthcare startup. This sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So The thesis basically argues that this startup is in a prime position for success because the AI healthcare market is booming.
Booming, yeah.
And there are all these catalysts like FDA approvals
Ah,
and partnerships with major hospitals. And their financial projections are really impressive and their valuation seems, pretty reasonable compared to other similar companies.
okay. But even with all that going for them, there's still got to be some risks, right?
Oh, definitely. The thesis does acknowledge that the market is really competitive and there could be some regulatory hurdles.
Hmm.
And it lays out this risk mitigation strategy where they're going to secure their intellectual property rights and, really diversify their partnership.
Okay, so they're not just assuming everything's going to be smooth sailing.
No, not at all.
Got it. Now, what about their exit strategy? What's the plan there? Are they shooting for an IPO, or is a strategic acquisition more likely?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, given how the healthcare industry works, the thesis leans more towards an acquisition, like by a major pharmaceutical company or even a tech company as the most likely exit.
Okay.
Makes sense when you consider the market trends.
Yeah. You know what? This whole conversation about investment theses is making me think beyond just Wall Street and investing. Like, can we apply these same principles to other areas of life too, like choosing a career path or even just evaluating a business idea?
Oh, absolutely. Like these components, they can be really valuable tools for decision making in any context. I mean, think about it. You're starting a business,
Right.
thinking about switching careers.
Or even just understanding a complex issue.
Exactly. The principles of an investment thesis can help you analyze things, figure out the risks and rewards, and ultimately make better choices.
Yeah, so it's about bringing that same critical thinking, that structured approach to problem solving to any situation, really. I love that.
Exactly. It's about looking beyond the surface, understanding those deeper factors that really drive success. And as you go about exploring your own interests, I have a little challenge for you.
Ooh, a challenge.
Can you create like a basic investment thesis for a company or maybe a trend in a field you're passionate about? What would the market opportunity be? What are those potential catalysts for growth? What are the risks and how could you mitigate them?
Oh, I love that. That's a great exercise for anyone to try. So, to wrap things up, whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting to dip your toes into the world of finance, understanding investment theses, it can give you the tools to make smarter, more informed decisions.
It's all about informed decisions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See
Absolutely.
you next time.
See you.